All right, before I get to my next guest, Tom Patri, I want to remind you about our good friends over at the PGA Tour Superstore. They're sponsoring this segment of the show.
This segment of the show is brought to you by the PGA Tour Superstore. See why golfers everywhere are proud to call PGA Tour Superstore their golf pro shop. Visit them online at PGATourSuperstore.com. Now back to Chris and more of the show.
And now back with me here on the French Lick Resort guest line is our resident director of golf, and that is Tom Patri. Tom is a Golf Tips Magazine Top 25 instructor. He served this summer as a director of instruction at the Hawthorns Golf and Country Club in Fishers, Indiana. Shortly, Tom will be headed back down to Naples, Florida, which is his winter residency. You can visit him at Esplanade Golf and Country Club in Naples to get your golf lessons down there. Tom is absolutely fantastic. He's got a great website, tompatri.com. Go on there and subscribe to his newsletter as well, and it's always a privilege to have him as part of the show. Hey, TP, how are you, my friend?
Chrissy, my man, what's happening, big boy?
It's always great when you're a part of the show, TP. How are things going for you, my friend?
Oh, pal, if I was any better, I'd be you. You know, Chris, we got to kind of rush this segment because I know you want to get off because at 10 o'clock on ESPN, the Yankees are on. I know you want to watch that tonight.
Yeah, God knows. Yeah, I wouldn't want to miss the start of that game. Goodness. Yeah.
How was your trip to Boston?
It was awesome, Tom.
Good.
I know you and I talked a little bit while we were headed up that way, but the North End in Boston is outstanding. The food and that Italian section. The food up there is outstanding. So yeah, we had a great time there, and our good friends over at Legal Seafood to get some lobster as well, and then a couple of games at Fenway Park. One was awesome, sitting on the Green Monster, watching us destroy the Angels 16-4. The next day, we got to hand it right back to us when we lost 12-4. So a tale of two games, but all in all, great.
I'm actually heading up to Portland, Maine, the end of September with my wife to do a little striper bass fishing and see some friends up there and eat some lobster myself. So I'm looking forward to it.
Good for you, my friend. Be sure to take some pictures. Let me know how that goes.
I will.
So,
definitely
TP, I want to get your thoughts on a couple of things, and I want to start by getting your thoughts on Joe LaCava, who is Tiger's caddy. He got inducted into the Caddy Hall of Fame. I saw your tweet about him. Have you gotten to spend some time with Joe over the course of time?
Yeah, Joe was with Freddie for 20 plus years, and Fred's a good friend from college, and Joey through the Fred relationship became a very good friend of Denise and mine, and when Joey and Fred were together and they played in the Shark Shootout or in Fred's early career in the Champions Tour, they'd stay at the house with us during the winter when they came to town. So Joey spent some time in the house, and we got to be very close to him. And he's a unique individual because he's an extremely humble guy. For the success he's had and the bags he's carried and been a part of, and the contributions he's made, and I can promise you, during Fred's career, he was way more than a caddy to Fred, and I think the same. I don't know much about the relationship with Tiger. I haven't had that much insight into that relationship. But I had a lot with Freddie, and he's an incredibly humble guy. He's very, very talented at his craft. He's a very calming influence on the bag. A pretty good player himself. Plays the game nicely himself, and just a quality human being. So I couldn't be happier for him. I think that induction is long overdue. He's in the annals of golf history. I think 25 or 30 years from now, when you and I might be dead and gone, he'll be looked back as one of the great craftsmen of that skill set ever. Right up there with anybody you can name. Whether it was Angelo with Jack, or it was Stevie Williams or Bones or anybody you can name. You can go back further, but he's very, very talented at what he does.
Tom, I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to go back to your time in college and at your alma mater, Florida Southern, and you led them to a Division II national championship back in 1981. Your team won that event by 35 strokes. You capture the individual title as well. Talk to me about what you remember about being a part of Florida Southern at that point in the school's history, and then being a part of a national championship team.
Well, Chris, we have to go back to the previous century to do that, first of all. So, I mean, we're going we're going way back. It was I was there in 1980 and 81. I transferred in there, as a junior. They had never won a national championship at that time, although they had knocked on the door the previous 3 years. The year before I got there, Tom Gleaton, who's now a club professional in Connecticut, won the individual. He was the first individual champion. So when I joined that team in 80, there was a lot of expectation for that team. And, in 80, we lost by a shot, and it was a pretty controversial loss. We were penalized 6 shots in the second round. And it's a long story, but I think basically they really kind of screwed us on the ruling, but that's a whole lot. 6 shots and lost by 1. So when we went there in 81 to Simsbury Hot Meadow Country Club in Hartford, Connecticut, we had a chip on our shoulder. And truthfully, one of the great things about that team and that program was Charlie Matlock, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, was a dear friend, became a dear friend of mine, our coach. He played a very, very strong, you could do this back then, we played a very, very strong Division I schedule all year long and played very few D teams all year. So, so we played, whether it was Alabama or Florida or Georgia or Tennessee or Texas, we played at Wake Forest, North Carolina, we played a kind of Georgia Tech, we played a very, very D1 schedule all year long. So when we got to the Division II National Championship, we were underwhelmed by the competition, quite frankly, and we really felt like we were the best team in the country, and proved it that week. I think that year, if I'm not mistaken, individually we finished 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 11th individually in that tournament. I think the worst place finish of our 5 players was 11th, the year I won. So we really kind of steamrolled that golf tournament, and that kind of launched that whole Florida Southern golf program. I think, I don't know how many they've won right now. I lost track, but I think they've won 13 or 14 national championships. I might be wrong. They've had the last
13.
2 individual national championships. 13, okay, 13. The last 2 individual national championships probably had 8 or 9. If you look at the roster of guys who played at Florida Southern, Lee Jansen won 2 U.S. Opens, Rocco Mediate lost the Tiger in a historic playoff at Pebble Beach. Marco Dawson won the British Senior Open. For a Division II team to produce those kind of players was unprecedented. And really, frankly, Chris, looking back, I was on the cusp of a change in college golf. The 1980-81 period, right after that, golf changed dramatically. The golf ball started going a lot further. People played the game very differently. It became very much a power game, which it really wasn't during my time. So I was right in the transition period of the game really changing, both on the collegiate and professional levels. But it's a great memory. I got away from the program for a while. The man that came in and coached after Charlie was not, very receptive to some of us coming back and participating, which was too bad. But the kid who's at the helm now, Lee White, who played there, has taken over the program. He's reached out for some of us, and I'm hoping we'll be back involved again. He actually invited me up in January to spend a day with the team, so I'm really looking forward to doing that again for the first time in a long time, and hopefully that'll create a little more user-friendly nature for some of the alumni to get back and get involved again.
And Tom, one of the things that we've talked about over the last couple of visits is about some of the younger guys coming out on tour and having success right out of college and onto the PGA Tour. And we talked about Matthew Wolff and Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, those guys. And you talked about it being right on the cusp of change. How much do you think the college golf game has changed since your time at Florida Southern?
Oh my goodness, because it's not even close. I have a young man up here with me in Fishers right now working with me who plays Big Ten golf, who I've worked with for about just under a year now. And we spent some time together in the last year, and he's a very fine player. Made a real kind of breakthrough in his golf game this summer and did some wonderful things. And we played a couple holes say late in the day after we worked together. And he hits a 300 yards. I mean, everybody hits a 300 yards, Chris. Everybody. I mean, that's the norm. I mean, when I was playing college golf, when somebody hit a 280 or 290, they were kind of freakish. And if anybody hit 300 yards, I mean, everybody talked about it. It was like somebody hit 300 yards today. Now, if you don't hit a 300 yards, truthfully, Chris, when a kid comes to me now and has a dream of playing college golf, I always feel bad when, no matter how talented the kid is, if he gets to me and I watch him hit some balls and he doesn't hit it very far, I almost have to tell him that maybe, you should go play checkers or chess or something, because you're not going to compete. It's not going to work out. I mean, it's just not, those days are over, man. If you don't hit it 3+ or can't at least hit it in that area, it's not going to work out. Those days are past. So the game really has changed. It's become a power game. I feel bad, and I try very hard with my players today to develop their wedge play, their intermediate wedge play, their short game skills, their managerial skills. I think that's what's missing in some cases with the really good player out there and the not so good player. I think that Morikawa, for example, and I think Matthew Wolff, if you watch them, they hit it a long ways, but they have a lot of good shots to hit around the greens, and they hit a lot of, knockdown or flighted shots very well. And I think that's the difference when some of the coaches out there who are training some of the more elite players, they get the fact that, yeah, they have a power game, but they need those skill sets that can control flight and trajectory and curve if they're really going to be elite out there.
So let's switch gears and let's talk about some of those playing lessons and some of the things that we can do to maybe save ourselves some strokes. One of the things that I wanted to get your thoughts on, Tom, because many of us can't get out to the golf course, 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, whether we're playing golf or we're getting onto the driving range. What are some training aids that we can have at home that maybe we can go in our backyards to practice our swings, maybe practice our short game, or even on a rainy day, bring it in the house and try to do some things to hone our games there as well?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you can do, Chris. I mean, I think I'm heading back to Naples, as you know, but, for the people who are, north of the Mason-Dixon, and even you up in Atlanta, it gets chilly up there. You get days you really can't be outdoors. I mean, things like an impact bag, things like a mirror to work on your positions in front of a mirror during the winter, things like speed sticks, things like a swing fan, a place you can putt indoors, even if you can set up a net in your garage. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. And now, like, for example, I have an online video academy, V1 Video Academy, that people send me, subscribe to, and people send me videos, and we work remotely. A lot of the videos I get during the winter from my online students are being filmed indoors. They're hitting shots into a net, or they're doing drills in front of a mirror, and I'm commenting on the drills and working them through how to tweak them and make them better. A stretching program. There's so much you can do indoors. So I mean, if you're stuck in the Northeast, or you're stuck in the Midwest where it's not very user friendly outdoors, there's a lot of things we can still do to enhance your golf game.
And Tom, you were always, and I'm sure still are, a very incredibly straight driver of the golf ball. What's a tip that we can do? Because so many of us that only get to play on the weekends, we're either slicing it into the trees or we're hooking it, down the left-hand side. What are some things that we can do and we can work on to become more consistent and hit more fairways?
Chris, it's funny. Not so much for my elite players, but for my recreational players to come, I got to tell you, 99% of the time, I see their hands on the club incorrectly. I see the grip is way too weak in their left hand. They've got it in the palm of their hand. They've got it in the palm of their right hand. The hands are not unified enough. So, I tell them all the time, the grip is like the steering wheel of a car. And if you had your hands upside down and crossed on the steering wheel, you spend time hitting the guardrail a lot. So the way you put your hands on the club is going to give you a fighting chance to square the face and have control of the golf face during the course of your golf swing. And after we've got the grip in place, I don't think people understand the face-path relationship very well, and how to feel the face-path relationship or how to drill the face-path relationship. And that's where I go back to things like the impact bag indoors and different kind of drills to work on face and path. So I think you got to start out with a good sound grip and put your hands. Listen, there are a lot of bad grips on the PGA Tour, but they're anomalies. They're outliers. I mean, Freddie does not have a great, what we call a classic grip. But you've got to discount that. You're not Freddie, and you don't have Freddie's talent and hand-eye coordination. I think you look at guys like Adam Scott, you look at guys like Tiger, you look at guys like Mr. Hogan who grip the club, very classically, and those are your models.
Tom, you've mentioned an impact bag a couple of times, and I think one of the things that most of us don't understand is what does that tell us? If I went out and bought an impact bag and I started hitting my golf clubs and my irons into it, what am I looking for? What's it going to tell me?
You know, Chris, it's interesting you ask me that because it's very often I'll walk down a range at a club, any club I've ever worked at or taught at, and you'll see a 15 handicap rehearsing his backswing. And when I walk up and say, tell me exactly what you're rehearsing and why, often they can't give me an answer. And I'll say to them, do me a favor, show me impact. And they look at me like I have three heads. I'll say, well, show me impact. Show me what impact would look like. And they'll get into some kind of contorted position where their hands are pressed real forward. The face is aimed way to the right or looking way to the right. Their spine will be inverted quite a bit. They're hanging on their right foot. Their left hip is not open very much. You know, their shoulders are way left of the target. All their lines basically are wrong. So I said to them, you know, it's funny, if you really knew what impact looked or felt like, and that's all you ever rehearsed, I think you'd be way down the road. I mean, and I said to them, listen, Jack Nicklaus had a flying right elbow. Jim Furyk looks like an octopus falling out of a tree. Raymond Floyd laid the shaft off. But if you look at their impact positions, pretty good. So instead of spending a lot of time rehearsing a backswing that you don't understand, what if all you ever rehearsed, I'm being a little facetious here, but all you ever rehearsed was an impact position that was really, in fact, understood and pristine, do you think you'd have a better chance? So I think if you can get with your coach and really allow him to define for you what impact is, and you took an impact bag and a full-length mirror, and all you did was rehearse an impact condition all winter long, I gotta believe when the sun came out in April, you'd be better off.
Tom, one of the other strengths of your game is putting, and we've talked about this before, that, you know, the putting green is an area where most of us don't spend enough time practicing, and that's a place where we lose a lot of strokes. We're three putting our way around the golf course, so we're throwing away 36 strokes at least, or 18 strokes at least, through the course of our round. Talk about the importance of spending 20 to 30 minutes regularly practicing your putting.
20 to 30, you said 20 to 30 hours, right? Hours?
Yeah, I meant
minutes
that.
Or hours?
Hours, of course.
Yeah, hours, right. So, you know, I have at Hawthorne's this summer, there's a short game area right behind the practice tee. And so often, Chris, I'll look down the range and the range will be full. I'll look over in the short game area. There'll be one person over there, and he'll be over there for 5 minutes, and he'll get bored and he'll walk away. And putting practice by the amateurs considered taking 3 balls to the putting green and putting from hole to hole, which is basically a waste of time. So when I grab somebody finally, I convince them that, listen, they need to spend some time doing this, and then we define what time means. I'll set up any number of skill drills, whether they're face and path drills, whether they're speed control drills, or, you know, we'll go through reading a green, you know, we'll go through, you know, any kind of drill that will enhance our skill in putting. No left first breakdown, you know, staying fairly stationary, keeping your head still during the stroke, any number of things. And we'll define what their particular weaknesses are, and we'll assign drills to the weaknesses and say, listen, this is your putting practice routine now. This is your putting laboratory. This is how you set up your putting practice. And they'll look at me like, man, I've never done this before. And I just can't, I find it so hard to believe that, one, nobody's wrapped their head around the fact that that one club, that little flat club that kind of occupies that one little spot in your bag, you know, accounts for about 43% of the shots you're going to hit. And the second highest stat is about 11%. That putter is going to rule or ruin your day. When you're hitting it good and you putt well, you capitalize. When you're hitting it bad and you putt well, you stay respectable. So if you can't understand that mathematically from a common sense standpoint, you really don't understand golf. So,
Tom, one of the things you talked about is reading the greens. And I tell you, that's a place that, my buddies and I struggle, right? How many times, and then you even see this a little bit on the PGA Tour, where we would go up there and we'll line up the putt, we'll stroke it, and then it breaks one direction, and we're like, I thought it was going to break the other way. How did it break that way? I think we're bad readers of the green. What are some of the things that you do or we can do better to make sure we're reading the break of the putt more consistently?
Well, one of the things I do, one of the drills I do, Chris, is I'll take somebody to the green. I'll say, okay, let's just work on green learning today. So do me a favor. Let's put one ball down, and I throw it somewhere on the green. I point to a hole, and I'll say, okay, do me a favor. I want you to read that putt the way you would read it, and then stroke it and hit it. And oftentimes I'll hit it, and it'll, either they'll read it incorrectly, or maybe it'll overbreak or underbreak compared to what they thought it was going to do. So, okay, now you saw what the ball did. Let's now walk around the screen, and you tell me when you realize what you didn't see originally, that now, based on that result, you see. And they walk around, and suddenly they go, oh, I didn't realize that this moved this way. I didn't see that view. I didn't walk over here. I said, okay, let's do it again. I'll throw a ball somewhere else, and I'll putt to another hole. I'll say, okay, hit the putt. And, of course, something will happen. And I'll say, okay, let's walk around. Oh, there it is. I missed that spot right there. I didn't realize that. I think that if you practiced reading greens by hitting putts, and then if you had a inappropriate result, if you just walked around and started looking at things after the fact in a green reading session, your eyes will become more astute. Your ability to see things and look at the nuances on the surface will become better, and you'll have more educated eyes. People don't spend time, ready for this, educating their eyes, because they don't take time to walk around and see where mistakes are being made and what they missed. So I think there are subtleties on greens that architects build into greens, because the architect's job is to deceive you. Your job is to solve the puzzle. So they take a great deal of time in building nuances and subtleties in the surfaces, and your job is to detect those nuances.
I love that. Solve the puzzle. Very nice.
Yeah.
TP, before I let you go, you've got a wonderful newsletter that's available on your website, tompatri.com. Talk about what folks are going to find when they go to your website and how they can sign up and get your newsletter.
A couple of things on the website, Chris, that are changing is it's actually being redesigned over the course of this winter coming up. But the newsletter is available. You can sign up for the newsletter, which is quarterly on the website. Number one, it's free. And in the newsletter, you'll get information about upcoming school specials, lesson specials, etc. You also get, a lot of swing tips and short game tips and information. You'll get information and stories about the tour from time to time, with players that have crossed my lesson tee, that have helped me become a better teacher, that'll help you become a better player. So the newsletter is pretty valuable and it's free. So why wouldn't you sign up for that? Free. If it's free, you should take 3, right, Chris? I mean, that's easy. And then also on the website is information about my online video academy, which people can subscribe to. And then again, you can either do a 6-month unlimited program or a 2-year unlimited program for a very nominal amount of money, as compared to an hourly live lesson. Get a lot of mileage out of that. So that's there. And then there's a whole blog page with almost 15 years of articles that I've written for various magazines. There's video, there's an equipment page, there's all kinds. There's a junior golf section. There's a lot there. So if they visit tompatri.com, they'll have access to all that stuff. And there's also some videos on there too that are linked to my YouTube channel.
And talk about social media. How can we follow you on social media as well?
Yeah, social media, which takes about 25 hours a day of my life, is 2 Facebook pages. There's an Instagram page. There's a LinkedIn page. So every resource that you probably know out there is all available. Tompatri.com is the website, and then @TomPatri is obviously Twitter. So it's pretty easy to find me in any of those places, Chris.
Well, Tom, it's always a privilege having you as part of the show, my friend. I can't thank you enough for continuing to come back and join me as often as you do. Always insightful, always a lot of fun. Thank you for being here again tonight, my friend.
Christopher, I say this every time, and I'm going to always say it when I'm on with you. I think you do a great job. How somebody hasn't snatched you up, why you're not on the Golf Channel, why you're not on a major network, why you don't have more exposure on Sirius XM is beyond me. You do a great job. Somebody should find you. If anybody out there is listening, find Chris, get him on a different network, get him somewhere else. He's unbelievable. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being alongside so many great guests you have, and thanks for what you do for the armed forces by mentioning them and shouting them out. And boy, are your sponsors lucky to be part of your show.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Tom. I appreciate you very much, my friend. Look forward to catching up with you again in a couple of weeks. In between now and then, all the best to you, your wife, and all your lucky students. You're fantastic.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it, pal.
See you, Tom. That's a great Tom Patri, P-A-T-R-I. So tompatri.com is his website. At Tom Patri is where you're going to find him on social media, Twitter, over on Instagram. And like you say, he's also got some stuff going on LinkedIn as well. So a lot of great content. And to his point, why wouldn't you sign up for his newsletter? It's free, got a lot of great content on it. And then also a path to get Tom to take a look at your swing over the winter as well. So keep your game in shape by giving it to Tom, and he's going to turn you into a great player. So look forward to catching up with Tom again here in a couple of weeks. All right, folks, it is time for me to put a bow on this edition of Next on the Tee. I can't thank my guests enough. Mark Wiebe, Travis Fulton, and then right there, Tom Patri, for joining me. Check out our website, nextonthetee.net. You'll be able to keep up to date with what our guest schedule looks like, so who we've got coming on. You can find this show available as a podcast on great sites like Podbean. Download the Podbean app if you don't have it. Take us with you everywhere you go. You can get us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audioboom, Player.fm, and a great new site, LaunchpadDM.com. Check us out on there. Hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate that very much. Folks, as always, we appreciate you the very most. We can't thank you enough for making us a part of your golfing content. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.
You've been listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA pros and top instructors